Did you know if you offer a 10% discount, you literally need to sell 25% more just to make the same amount of profit at the end of the day? So the other day, I was chatting with my team about our email promo calendar, and as always, we get to talking about what we see everyone else doing with their emails to their audiences. And of course, we subscribe to a lot of other brands' databases and all of that kind of stuff, all in the name of market research, of course. And we're seeing a lot of brands sending out constant discounts at the moment. Some we see are sending out big discounts on brand new products that they haven't even launched yet, and up to 80% off for end of season sales. These brands, they're not making any money at the end of the day. They probably don't even realize that this is the reason that they're not making money. And by continuing to discount constantly like that, they're, they're only digging themselves deeper and deeper into that hole. And so, if you're kind of caught in the same situation where you're constantly discounting, you might want to ask yourself, is that the path that you are on in your business, and do you want to get off it? Because it is possible to change tracks. It's something that I've just done with my new skincare brand, Indigaro. So when I acquired this brand a couple of months ago, the previous owner had really spent the last 18 months sending out discounts to their list pretty much, all the time. Yet the last couple of weeks, our highest revenue generating email was a value add email. And that's exactly what you want to be able to communicate, is the value. At the end of the day, even if you look on Google Trends, you will see that, if you compare search terms including cheapest or cheap versus search terms including best, that best wins out every time. So it's the value that customers really want to know about. So this week on the show, we're going to pick up where we left off last week. Last week's episode was part one of a two-part series, because I have so much to say about this insanely powerful marketing channel called email. Now, if you haven't listened to last week's, you probably want to go and listen to that first, because in that episode, I share a bunch of things not to do with your email marketing. But this week, we're going to dive into what you should do to maximize your email marketing results. Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I actually have a free resource that you might like to download that accompanies it. It's my Sell Like Hotcakes email guide and template. This is just realistically going to help you to learn how to communicate the value in different ways in your emails to your customers and potential customers. So if you really want to convert more revenue and, retain a more engaged email list that responds by, rewarding you again and again with purchases in your business, then you do need to learn how to write and craft persuasive emails. So to help with that, I want to invite you to go ahead, grab a free copy of this resource, and you can get that at katherinelangman.com/email-template. We will, of course, include the link to that in today's podcast episode show notes on our website. But without further ado, let's dive into the rest of this episode, this two-part series. So I'm going to give you a few of my strategies that work really well for me and for our clients. I'm not going to give you every secret in our little black book, but I'm going to share some good stuff here for you and talk about a couple of different aspects to improving your email marketing. And the first, of course, is to set up the part where people actually get subscribed to your list. So this definitely requires having that, a decent offer. And when I say offer, I don't necessarily mean like here's 10% off or 20% off or whatever you've been doing. Definitely some sort of an ethical bribe and reason to get people, or reason for people to subscribe to your list. So, and then you need to have a form, right? You need to have the technical mechanism for somebody to actually subscribe. And usually e-commerce stores will have a form that's so embedded, that is embedded in the footer of the website, but also usually some kind of a pop-up and maybe a little teaser tab in the corner. People can click on it and the form will pop up.
There's other list building methods you can use as well, like running a giveaway or collaborating with other brands or using things like product quizzes to personalize your advice to the individual customer, and they can get that, the results and recommendations emailed to them. Or you can use apps like Spin to Win. I mean, there's so many different things, like even scavenger hunt type apps. I mean, there's lots of different cool things that you can do. And, my suggestion is to incorporate a number of them. Obviously, you need to do things that you think are going to work well for your brand and for your audience as well, and what they're going to enjoy and respond and engage with. But bottom line is you always want to be list building, and you want to try a number of different methods. If you hopefully you're going to be using a email platform like Klaviyo, which of course has the email form functionality built in, and there's a number of different sorts of forms that you can have in there, and I would be suggesting to try and use a few of those as well in different ways. Um, on and different places on your website. But then we have to give people, like, the form itself, that's the tech part of it, but don't just put a templated form up there. We need to personalize it and tailor it and really think strategically what is going to be the best lead magnet or ethical bribe to entice people, entice the right people to subscribe to your list. And sometimes I like to think of this as a welcome gift as well, because who doesn't like gifts, right? Like, that's so fun. And so this kind of is going to be something like a monetary incentive, like a discount or a gift voucher or a free gift with purchase or a giveaway, so a lottery style thing. It may be that you want to give away a free order a month or something. I mean, whatever you do decide to put there, make sure it's not going to dissuade somebody from ordering sooner. And then there are other alternatives as well. So, some value-based incentives like a personalized recommendation or a free digital product of some kind. And then a lot of people do two together. So one that's more of a value add and other that is more of a monetary, something that'll get somebody over the line who is ready to make a purchase decision pretty now, close to now, but they just need a little bit of extra enticement. So you can combine lead magnets as well. Now, as I said earlier, most often we just see e-commerce stores who just offer a straight discount, which is certainly the simplest way to get moving. So it might be something like sign up and get 10% off your first order. And, I guess what I would suggest here is, if that's what you've done and you've never thought about it before, or never really thought about alternatives, please test and give something else a go. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to convert the best unless you test some things out. And so, for example, with Indagare, we've been testing a couple of different lead magnets out, and we're only a couple of weeks through the test, so it's still going at the moment. But at the moment, the offer that requires the highest average order value or minimum order value before the offer kicks in is converting the best. So go figure. But generally what happens in a lot of e-commerce businesses, they'll set up this discount and people subscribe to the opt-in form. And then what usually happens is not very much. So either the customer buys or they don't, and then their email ends up in this email list database somewhere, but they don't really hear from the business often again, or, until that business sends out another discount, right? Now, we don't want to do that. We want to do something that's way more engaging than that. And we want to take a few steps so that we can actually help lead a new subscriber to that point of purchase more quickly, and a way that has value and integrity as well. Because not everybody is going to buy immediately when they come to your website. Not everybody's ready to buy. They haven't made that purchase decision yet. Nor does simply giving a discount necessarily make them make an immediate purchase decision. So what we can do is actually have an automated sequence of emails, a series of emails that are really designed to appeal to the types of buyers or the types of subscribers that are likely to buy from you ultimately, right? And at the end of the day, we kind of want to tell a little bit of a story through the emails in this sequence. So it's not just about sending the subscriber a discount code saying, hey, here's your code, here's a button to click here and shop now, and then reminding them with the same content a few days later. That's not what I'm talking about here. Obviously, if you are including some sort of an incentive, then you do need to include that in each of the emails in this sequence, but you also need to include a little bit of other information as well that's hopefully designed to appeal to your different sorts of customers and, really entice them to buy. Because we do want the right kind of customers to buy. Not the wrong kind. The wrong kind aren't going to enjoy your stuff, and then that's not great for them or for you. They'll probably leave you a bad review. So we want the right customers to engage and buy. And usually, just in terms of consumer psychology, you'll find that there are people that are motivated by different types of information, different sorts of content. And so if we can communicate to these different sorts of buyer personas within with different content in each of your emails, you're going to have a much better chance of converting more of them than otherwise. And so I thought I'd just share a little bit about these buyer personas so that you can have a think about what kind of content you need to put in these emails. And the first kind of buyer persona that you really want to appeal to is what we call the spontaneous buyer. So this is going to be the person who will just grab something at the checkout, for example, because they see it there and it looks really good. Or they're the sort of person who sees a really awesome outfit on Instagram and just clicks and buys it now without really thinking about it. It's completely spontaneous. But it's also the sort of person who wants what's new just because it's new and nobody else has it yet. And they really want to be the first to jump on whatever the opportunity is. So that's the kind of angle that you want to take in that first email that you send. Obviously, you also need to introduce them to your brand or your store. What are they going to find there? What would they love? Why would they love what you have to sell? Or, all of that kind of stuff. But, incorporate that within that sort of messaging angle that I was saying. And then actually, I guess just as an aside here, I do actually advocate for using some sort of an incentive in these emails, not just a value add like a PDF download or something like that. I just prefer to find something that's a little bit different to a straight big discount for reasons we've discussed already. But if you can have some sort of other discount, like a gift with purchase or a gift voucher or a discounted introductory bundle or something along those lines, especially if it is, a way that will help customers to really enjoy or get a better experience from whatever it is that they're buying from you. Value packs as well work really well, or mystery packs that can work really well for a lot of brands. So that's just a couple of options. Or free shipping might be another one. Might be a gift voucher, as I said. Anyway, that's just a few things there. So the language matters here is what I'm getting at, the way that you phrase and couch the incentive. But the reason you want to have some kind of an incentive is so that then you can use scarcity as part, you can build scarcity into this automated email sequence. So the fact that an offer expires after, say, 7 days is going to help many of these customer or prospects make a decision rather than to just think they've got forever and they don't get around to making a decision. They just stay sitting on the fence. All right. So got that bit out of the way. And we've talked a bit about that first email. So let's move on to the second email, because we really want to make sure that our second email is targeting what we call your humanistic buyers. And I will say, as a general kind of benchmark average, you're probably going to have 3 emails in this sequence. Some brands can have more if they have a really, really high, if it's a high threshold to buy, like a really, really high price, for example. But yeah, generally speaking, we're talking about 3 emails here. And the second one, we're going to target your humanistic buyers and generally needs to answer the kind of questions that there's always that person who's asking lots of questions, right? So you want to think about that kind of a customer, that kind of a personality, and what questions do they have that need to be answered, and often it's, will this work for me? And there's a couple of ways that you can approach this email, depending on what you sell, depending who your customers are, and if there are any particular problems or perceived risks that make it much harder for customers to make a purchase decision. I mean, I think that some product categories like skincare, I mean, that's not an easy one to choose to buy online because there's no way that you can try it first to see if it agrees with your skin. But anyway, so there's definitely a lot of products out there where there is some kind of perceived risk around buying online. And actually, that was also the case for me in my first business, which was a cloth nappy brand. We really had to have some education and some risk mitigation content in there. Other brands, they might seem like it's an absolute no-brainer purchase, like Baby Ada's kids sunglasses, who we worked with for many, many years. And I guess the thing is they're not the cheapest kids sunglasses. So there's going to be that kind of a fear or a friction point where parents, or whoever's making the purchase decision needs to decide, is it worth spending that kind of money on my kid when it's a product they might break or lose in 5 seconds flat? And so in that particular case, we worked on an email that would mitigate that perceived risk, and it was to talk about their lost and broken guarantee. And so, in this humanistic, in this email that's targeting the humanistic sort of buyer persona, you really want to include whatever information is going to help overcome risks or perceived risks or friction points that stop people from making a purchase decision. And you need to address that there. But I love doing it in a way where you're couching it in some social proof. Now, regardless of whether there's any perceived risks or friction points about purchasing, everyone needs to have social proof in an online business. It is, it answers that question that is generally in any first-time customer's mind. Is this good? Is it going to work? Am I going to love it? What do other people think? Because when other people who aren't the brand themselves, when other regular customers say they loved it and it worked really well for me, then that speaks volumes compared to a brand who's talking about their own stuff. The trust value and the credibility of social proof cannot be underestimated. So, maybe share some cool user-generated content or some of your customer reviews. There's might be a particular case study about a customer. Again, it's going to depend on what you sell and what's relevant and engaging. But just remember, your customers, your potential customers are going to love seeing that other people really love and enjoy your products. And even better, if that social proof content can address any perceived risks or friction points, you're going to find that's super powerful in your email sequence. And then the very final one that you want to, the final email that you want to use in the sequence is really about the fear of missing out. And so this particular buyer persona is what we might call the deadline dancers or your competitive buyers. They are literally going to make a decision when you tell them if they don't make a decision right now, they're going to miss out. And so this is where having that incentive, preferably the non-cheapening, discounty kind of incentive, but incentive nonetheless, with an expiry on it, can be super influential at encouraging a purchase. And so that's the way that we want to entice people to, first of all, subscribe to our email list, having the right offer, really, getting your list building efforts into as many places as you can and using various different methods, and then having the right sequence of emails that goes out and targets those different sorts of buyer personas. And helps, by doing so, by having the right content that suits the right sorts of, the ways your different customers are going to make those purchase decisions, you're going to help move more of those subscribers from just being a subscriber and sitting around on your list into a buyer. So, once they go through this first sequence, they're either going to buy or they're just going to stay thinking about it on your list for a little while. And so there's a few different ways that we want to go about communicating with these people. Now, for those who don't go on to buy, we don't just go, uh we are just going to ignore you. We're going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to share about how you can really take care of that buyer and why you want to keep communicating them using your email marketing. But for those that do not go on to buy, I mean rather those who do, we really want to acknowledge that, right? And so again, we can't just be selling, selling, selling. We can't only go out to our database with buy now, buy now, buy now messages. Here's a discount, here's a discount, here's a discount. It's so spammy. And whereas if you can take a moment to just be a polite, grateful person in this moment and send a message of thanks to your new customer, it's going to go a long way to encouraging that customer to come back again down the track. It's also going to help them to anticipate having a really good experience when their order arrives and they open it up and they start to use it, right? So be polite, send them an email, send them a couple of emails even that, and again, this is going to be automated, but that welcomes them as a customer. And depending on what you sell, you might have some good content that helps them to have a better experience using the product. So for example, if it's a product that people need to learn how to use properly, send them some educational content. That was certainly the case when I had my cloth nappy business, but other product types work well here as well. I remember a while back I was buying some protein shakes, and these were actually for me when I was really getting stuck into my fitness journey. And they had a really cool strategy. So once I purchased, I got the thank you email, and it was a really nice message sent from the founder. Of course, I knew that it was automated, but it didn't matter. I mean, it wasn't like a templated email. It was nicely written. But then they also linked me to some really useful articles around fitness and health and wellness. There were things like recipes and some exercise routines, and I think maybe some stress management techniques and stuff like that. And it was just really, really cool, really timely and relevant. Um, but in my first business, we would send some how to video demos and information just to train people to know exactly how to use the products, because it was a big thing, big issue. I mean, it was a big learning curve, with modern cloth nappies. I think probably it's still the same with a product like that. It's pretty niche. But then, there's going to be other products, like if you're selling, clothing, for example, your customers probably don't need you to teach them how to use the products. They've probably got that down pat. So, of course, it's going to be very dependent on what you sell. But beyond that, thank you and welcome message to your new customer and your new, I mean, you're welcoming them to your brand family, right? And then, at some point you would also send out a message that is going to request a review or a testimonial, which you would also automate as well. Don't hit them up straight away. Make sure they have a chance to use it first. But in all of these sorts of messages, again, I'm loving using Klaviyo, especially for requesting a review. I mean, not only are you likely to get a really good conversion rate to, customer receiving the email and then actually completing the review, because when you think about it, it just makes it easy because it's just a form in the email. So the customer doesn't need to leave their email, go to your website, log in and try and find the product that they purchased and then type a review. I mean, nobody's going to do that. It's just nobody has the time or the patience or the inclination. It's too hard. So, you want to make it easy by using something like Klaviyo so that they can submit their review and the app knows exactly where to post it on your website. And it's going to, it'll have the ability, if the customer wants to upload a photo, it can automatically post reviews over on Google as well. So you can get it out there more broadly. And then you can also, automate a follow-up. So if somebody has shared a review, you can send them a small thank you gift voucher, for example. Or if they've left you a not so great review, you can send a follow-up customer service message as well, and just, try and make things right. Now, beyond that customer thank you type flow. We definitely need to have something in place that's going to automate the process of enticing a first customer back to purchase again. So we need to be this idea of getting somebody back to buy again. I've spoken about it on the podcast before, where it's this notion of turning a one-time customer into a multiple times customer, so that your return on ad spend essentially is much higher. There's lots of reasons why having returning customers is essential in business. It helps you to grow a profitable business in many, many ways. But we don't want to leave this to chance, so we want to try and send them some messages that are going to be relevant for the customer in their buying cycle. So again, this is going to depend on the kind of product that you sell. But so for example, with Indigare Beauty, we're selling skincare and people use it up within a certain time frame. So there's going to be a point in time where it is relevant for them to and timely for them to replenish their stocks. We also have a number of products in the range, so there'll be other opportunities to cross-sell and try and encourage people to try different products. So we want to try and use automated email here, again, sending a sequence of emails to invite people back to make a second or third or subsequent purchase. And so, just to reiterate, when you are trying to grow your e-commerce business, you are going to be spending money on things like paid advertising to get traffic and sales in your online store. When you are paying for traffic and you're also paying for incentives and discounts, it costs you a certain amount of money to win a first sale from a new customer. And so if we can invite them back and we can use automated email marketing to do that by and large, then you are going to be able to grow and scale a profitable business. So and yeah, like with the new subscriber welcome email, you definitely want to send a sequence of emails as well. And just remember, when you can win a customer back, and that the customer is happy at the end of the day, that is going to be so much easier for that customer to come back and buy from you a second time, a third time, and subsequently as well. Partly because they're familiar with your website, they know where to go to find stuff, they're familiar with your products, they know they like them, and they know that your products are going to do whatever it is that they want them to do, and they know how to use your products, and that it's a really good fit and all of that kind of good stuff. And so it is really in your best interest for your customers to have a great experience the first time around, and then for you to automate that process of bringing them back the second time. And there's going to be there's that phrase, customers don't want to expend too many brain calories to figure out how to to do anything really. But when it comes to purchasing online, it's so much easier for a customer to go back to a store that they know versus to try a new store. It does use less brain calories to figure out something that you already know. So, you'll stand yourself in good stead if you can try and work on automating this kind of repeat purchase rate. Now, I also want to touch on what to do about the customers who almost purchase, the ones who check your products out, add to cart, maybe even start the checkout process, but they stop before hitting the buy button. I mean, you all know the ones. They're the ones who abandon their cart. And whilst about 70% of your website visitors will abandon their cart on average, which sounds a bit demoralizing, like, why aren't they buying my stuff? Is it not good enough for you? I mean, but you have to switch that mindset around, because these are actually your lowest hanging fruit, your warmest leads, and you must follow up with these people, again, using automated email. Of course, you can do other ways of following up with them, like retargeting ads, for example. But when it comes to automated email, yes, you can only send those emails out if those contacts have subscribed to your list in the first place, which is another reason to work hard on your list building efforts. But these cart abandon emails, they convert really highly. You can generally convert them about 10% of the time. And so in terms of your automated emails, this one this sequence, this flow is generally going to produce the second highest volume of sales revenue for you after your new subscriber sequence. So super important flow to get in place, automated flow. Now, and in between all of those automated emails and list building efforts and all that kind of jazz, in between all of that list building and trying to nurture and entice a prospect to buy from you, we do still want to be engaging with our growing email list on a very regular basis using broadcast email campaigns, which you might refer to as sending an email newsletter or an EDM. Obviously, you're not calling it a newsletter when you actually send it to your customers, right? But the reason that you want to really keep having these regular email communications going out to your list is because as your list grows, there's going to be new products and new promotions that you're rolling out, and there's going to be people on your list that might just take a while longer to decide to buy from you. I mean, I've got many clients where prospective customers sit on their email list for months and months before they actually decide to buy, and then they'll just buy because they've been receiving some really great email communications. Now, by good email communications, I'm not talking about sending constant discounts every week. Surprise, surprise. Try and actually add some value. So I wanted to share an example here. In Indigari Beauty, our best money generating email campaign last week was all about how to protect your skin from environmental damage. It did have some really valuable information and it linked to the best skincare products for the purpose, but it didn't offer a discount. Yet it converted really well and made some really great revenue for our business. So really try and incorporate those kind of value add emails into the mix. And then in terms of driving increased repeat purchases, you will always do well from launching new products to your database or relaunching best sellers. For example, if there's a particular time of year that suits them. One of our clients, Figgy and Co. I think it's Figgy and Co. It's a New Zealand-based natural cleaning products business, super fun brand. And obviously, spring cleaning is it's a great time for a lot of people to respond to a message about cleaning. And so, every year they do a spring promo. It's the same products, but they are able to kind of relaunch them and make a big song and dance about them at that time of year, and it goes really, really well. From time to time, it will make sense to run a promo with discounts, for example, end of financial year or Black Friday, or maybe after payday, where you know that a lot of customers have, they're prepared to spend money. They've saved some money, they're prepared to spend money. They know, they're going to be specifically looking out for some deals in those particular times of the year, and they are going to be spending money on good deals. So those sorts of times of year, it is worthwhile actually running a promo with some kind of incentives. And I should point out you will always have a few different buyers on your list at any different time where and one of them will be a discount buyer. So, from time to time, it is worth monetizing that portion of your list, right? I'll just list out what these sorts of buyers are. So this is not a persona per se, but it's just, how people spend their money. So you're going to have your, like I said earlier, that I want what's new because it's new type person. So they're going to be your full price buyer. And so never ignore that kind of buyer. If you're launching new products out to your list and you're discounting them straight out of the gate before you've even sold it at full price, you're going to ignore that kind of buyer. And so there will be the kind of buyer who will, this is the kind of person who lines up at the Apple store the night before the new iPhone gets released just because they want it before anyone else, right? It's your early adopter type shopper. They will pay full price and they want to be the Jones who everyone else is trying to keep up with, right? Then you're going to have your volume shopper. So this is often me, actually. It's the person who doesn't enjoy shopping often. They just like to be efficient. I was even like this when I bought my wedding dress. I went into a shop. I had a little bit of an idea of what I wanted, tried on 2 dresses, decided that I wanted the first one that I tried on. And I never went and had another look at another dress again. So, this kind of person wants to buy everything at once just to get it over with. Actually, I remember when I was growing up, we had next door neighbors, and the mum was like this. She would literally buy the most enormous boxes of breakfast cereal and bog roll and things like that. And, these boxes, they were big enough to fit a small car in them just about. And, so this kind of a shopper would respond really well to volume incentives and big bundles. And so that kind of shopper is going to be the kind of person that, for example, if you sell, let's say you sell, let me use skincare, for example, like Indigare Beauty. And oh, I've just had a little notification come up whilst I'm recording. I don't want this to drop me out. So let's say we, use my Indigare Beauty skincare brand as a example here. The volume buyer, they are going to be responding to something like a large bundle. So we have people who absolutely love our hair oil, for example, and anytime we do a volume incentive on that, people go nuts for it. And so that is going to be your volume buyer. Next, you are going to have your discount buyer. Now, this, I don't want to talk too much about the discount buyer. You all know too much about this one already. And I think you're all probably very well practiced at selling to that particular customer. And lastly, you're going to have your lapsed customer, and you should aim to win them back with the kinds of email campaigns that I was talking about, like your value add emails and your product launches and your promos. Now, there's also ways that we can use some email automation for those win backs as well with your lapsed customers. So anyway, with your broadcast style email campaigns going out to your list, you want to be sending these regularly. Generally, on average, it's going to be once a week. It might be like there's a bit of a caveat there. Like if you are literally just getting started in your business and you only have your mum, your dad, your dog, and your sister on your email list, you don't need to be sending an email every week. Obviously, you want to start growing that email list first, but I do suggest that you start sending them out monthly, even if it is just to those people on your list, just so that you can get the practice of doing it consistently. Because it's too easy to get slack with these things. And then when, it's a bit like going to the gym, consistency is the most important thing here, right? And then as your email list grows, you want to be working towards doing them weekly. And then when you become, your list becomes really, really big, you're going to be sending it more frequently than that, sometimes 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes even more than that. But I do advise that when you're at that size and scope, then you are segmenting your email list and, so that you might be emailing multiple times a week, but you're not actually emailing everyone on your list. You're being a little bit more, intentional than that, maybe sending emails that are relevant to buyers of certain products, like I've mentioned with the hair oil in our business. Or you might be able to send some emails to a couple of different product buyers where you're cross-selling one to the other and you've got a bundle of them together. Or it might be that you have your VIP list and you send more to those and less to people who aren't your VIPs. By VIPs, I mean like people who've purchased, say, I don't know, 4 times in a year versus people who've only bought once. So, when you are sending emails many, many times, you're not spamming the entire list with everything all at once. Now, the last thing I really want to touch on in this episode is what email marketing platform you should be using, because there's so many different email marketing platforms on the market and they all seem to have a very wide spectrum of price points. So I know it can be a little bit confusing about which one to choose. And I do know that a lot of early stage businesses think that it's prudent to go for the free or super cheap options. But you just need to be really careful and mindful that you aren't limiting your potential revenue growth because of the app's lack of functionality. So a lot of these free or cheap options, they just don't have the kind of functionality suited to this sort of sophisticated automation that we use and teach. I remember about a year ago, we started working with a client who was adamant that she wanted to keep using, I think it was like the free email option that it's included in the Shopify platform. I can't remember exactly, but she just didn't. She was wanting this because she didn't want to spend money on something else. And she was assuming that she was comparing apples with apples, but she was literally making zero money from the emails she was sending. And what's the return on investment on zero? It's zero. Whereas with the right tool for the job, the ROI can be, like I mentioned earlier, it can be really, really huge. So, regardless of whether it's 35 times or if it's 62 times, either of that is a lot more than zero. And I mean, duh. I think we can all do that math. Anyway, what platform do we choose? What do we recommend? And I'm sure it's no secret, have our preferences for Klaviyo for anyone who's in e-commerce, because it is a platform that's purpose-built for e-commerce. It integrates with all of the major e-commerce website platforms and a lot of the smaller platforms as well. And all of the functionality is designed to help an e-commerce business to launch, scale, and grow. I mean, it works for businesses that are startups and it works for businesses at huge scale. And I love the fact that you get it all out of, all the functionality right out of the box with Klaviyo. It doesn't require you to be on a really expensive premium plan before you get all the cool bells and whistles, like, happens with a lot of other apps. You get all of it. And they actually do have a free version that you can get started with. So there's no reason not to start with it. And I can certainly say that if you start with something else and then you have to move your list over, I mean, it's definitely something that's doable, and we do it with and for clients all the time. But it's a pain in the bum. So, best to start off the way you mean to carry on is my advice there. But once your list grows to a certain size, you definitely would need to be on a pay plan. But realistically, it is a small amount of money to pay compared to the revenue that you will generate in return once you start using it the right way. Now, there's so much more that you can and we do within Klaviyo to drive revenue growth in terms of converting new customers and driving, increased returning purchase rates as well. But I'm going to be saving the best, juiciest strategies for our clients, including the super cool automated flow planning tool that literally shows you exactly how much money you are able to make for your business from each of the different flows and campaigns. And also helps you to map out the structure of those emails in the flow and the content to go in each email in the flow. It's kind of like a paint by numbers tool, but for email marketing, and it's super, super cool. But that's what we reserve for our clients. So if you want to get your hands on it, you'll just have to come to talk to us about joining one of our programs. Now, that does bring us to the end of the episode today. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of inspiration and maybe motivation to go and have another look at whatever you've got happening in your email platform at the moment. A bit of a jolt if you need to be doing something, if you're not doing anything yet. If you know that you need to up your game and you want a little bit of help, either learning from us in one of our programs or working with our team and getting them to do it for you, just hit us up. You can book in a free strategy session by heading to productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk. I'll pop that link in the show notes so you don't have to remember it. And we look forward to helping you. But like I said, that's it for today's episode. I look forward to being back on the show with you again next week. Bye for now.